That's according to the law of gravity, which controls our universe. Whatever goes up must definitely come down. But here in Nigeria, the prices of goods and services defy that logic. They go up and keep going up. Amidst rising cost of living, telecommunication operators are proposing an increased price of data, SMS, and call services. According to a letter by the Association of Licensed Telecommunication Operators of Nigeria, ALTON, addressed to the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, they proposed a 40% hike in prices of the services. Following this, Nigeria's digital inclusion is facing an imminent threat, as the 40% hike implies that the price floor of calls will become 8.95 naira or 8 naira 95 kobo from 6 naira 4 kobo or 40 kobo rather, while the price cap for SMS increases to 5.61 naira from 4 naira. So the head of operations of ALTON, Gbolahan Awonuga, said the review is long overdue, as the last time telecom tariff was reviewed was between 2001 and 2003. BKO, 40% increase, way up high, and it still boils down on energy.
Yes.
Issues.
Even beyond energy, inflation generally. How many businesses have kept prices at the level they were since 2001 or 2003? They keep changing prices depending on the rate of inflation in the country. But the telco guys have remained on the same price regime for so long. Of course, that is what will make Nigerians happy. Nigerians want to be able to access the telecom services for as cheap as they can come. But you and I know that diesel cost alone can force a change. We have seen diesel costs rise by more than 233%. Now, the telcos use 360 billion to buy diesel. Before it was 30 billion a month. But diesel price rose from 225 in February to 750 naira per liter now. 225 naira per liter just in February here to 750.
Nobody knows
so
where it's going.
That has huge repercussions. Hotels and the hospitality business especially, they are struggling, they are suffering, because how do you, at a time when we are not providing consistent electricity for the people, these hotels have to rely on diesel to power their generators, and at that cost, at 750 naira per liter, is killing. Even our own business, the broadcast business, is affected too. Absolutely. There are some radio stations now that have decided to cut down their operational hours. The same thing can be said of banks. Banks too are reducing their hours of operation because of this huge cost of diesel. So if these guys they have 33,832 towers and base stations as well. You need generators to power those base stations. No one relies on public electricity supply because it's erratic, it's not reliable. So this cost, the energy costs alone, are enough to push these guys to take a second look at their tariff. And I already read something that the NCC, which is the regulator, the NCC was saying, from the look of things, this tariff increase may be justified. It's difficult when you look at exchange rates. You see how weak our currency is, how it has declined in the last few months, and you look at energy costs. It's difficult to say know that these guys cannot increase tariff. So that is the thing. And government is also even imposing duty, fresh duty on the telco business. So at the end of the day, the end user will be at the brunt of all of these increases.
Well, even before the increase, the current prices have been, taking a toll on Nigerians with the pocket. So with these now, it's going to be a stress on our wallets.
Additional stress.
Additional
stress is there.
Yeah.
It's not as if using the services of the telcos have been easy.
Yeah.
And this is at a time when data and call time is almost like blood to the average Nigerian.
Absolutely.
We found ourselves depending so much on the services rendered by these telcos. Now, we almost cannot do without them. Then the 40% increase is going to come. While I agree with BKO outrightly that looking at it from the point of economy, it will be almost impossible to tell these telcos not to effect this increase. I want us to look at the very last thing he said too was, at the end of the day, the end users, the masses, the people will bear the brunt. And you must also know that most of the things that affects the telcos, that makes doing business difficult for them, that make increasing this tariff almost inevitable, also affects the people.
And the banks.
And it affects the banks. It
Trickles
affects
down
the entire
every
economy.
sector. Yeah.
So, as one of the end users who understands what this will do to the pocket of the average Nigerian, I will only say that I think the government and the telcos should find a way around it. 40% increase to what we pay already will be killing. It will be outrageous. It will be too much. These are things we use every day. Because of the fleeting use we put this thing to, we don't know how much it is taking from our pocket until we sit down to do some calculations. So we should not add this burden to the people without at least trying to mitigate this in the first place. We must find a way. I want to believe that we may not go as much as 40% if government comes to discuss with telcos and the people are put into consideration. But to just go ahead with this increment now, at a time like this.
Now we have also increased electricity.
Electricity tariff has been increased.
Everything is going up.
Because nobody is talking about that. And you need to see the bills. Nigerians are. I went to a community here in Lagos, and you know that in that community, less than 50% of them now use electricity. It's not in rural Lagos, in central Lagos. And you know what they decided? After complaining, there was a time they packed all their bills together, returned it to NEPA and told them, come and remove your light. They were off NEPA light for like a year. They had to go and beg before it was restored. After a while, it became voluntary. If you know you cannot pay, you remove. And more than half of the residents of that community are not using, because they cannot afford to pay 15,000, 17,000.
Unfortunately, even the people pay for cables,
pay for
transformer.
pay for transformer.
They do repairs.
They buy poles. They buy poles, electricity poles. So at the end of the day, what we serve them is still darkness, and we are causing them to pay more for darkness because there is no guarantee that even with this increase, that we are going to have consistent supply of electricity. There is no guarantee because consistent electricity supply is incumbent on generating capacity, is incumbent on the capacity of the transmission company of Nigeria to wheel what has been generated, and is incumbent on what the discos are prepared to take, because sometimes you give them a huge quantum of electricity and they just cherry pick the communities that they want to supply. Because some communities are notorious for energy theft, some of them are notorious for beating up their staff, some of them are notorious for not paying. So the discos now have to cherry pick the communities to supply electricity. So we have all kinds of problems. This one adding to what we have. I really don't know how the future looks tough. Looks tough for the ordinary man.
It's really an amazing climb we find ourselves, and then with the issues, things happening all around in this country and in the world at large.